Hi, welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I feel like the Wizard of Oz hiding behind the curtain this week, but I'm so excited because we have a group of authors to talk to. We've got Kathy Wheeler, Allison Hanson, Margaux Thorne, and Eliana Piers. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
So we're going to dive right in because we have a ton of releases this week, including a release by Marie Higgins. That's the Worthington Legacy Book 9, and it is Her Pretentious Marquess. I'm never sure whether to say Marquess or Marquess, but Marquess.
That's a tricky one.
Plus, it looks like a girl title too. I mean, I know we shouldn't gender that way and stuff, but it just does. So, um, so I'll make sure to put the link to that one in the comments so you can grab it. But the book that released right after that is Margaux's book, and it's A Match Made in Heaven, and it's book 5 in the Cricket Club. And my goodness, the covers on these are so gorgeous.
I know. I feel so fortunate. They're just so beautiful to look at. I love them.
Every time we get a new one, it was like, oh my goodness, so good. Can you tell us about the book in the series?
Yeah, so it's book number 5 in the series, which seems so crazy to me. It seems like I just started it. But yeah, so we meet Lady Ella, who is just she's just in love. You know, she's just a normal girl. She thinks she's in love with the Duke. And we've met this Duke before in the previous book. It's Lord Oliver. So he's just kind of like a smooth talking, debonair, rake. And she follows him around and she kind of knows his schedule and she's just dying to be noticed. And the first scene is basically she meets him. She knows he's going to be riding his carriage in the park, and disaster strikes. He falls off his carriage, he falls into the water, and she has to save him.
Fun. That's a twist.
Yeah, a lot happens at first. And what the problem is she's she's discombobulated. It's a lot happens, and she saves him, and they're trying to see if he's still alive. And when he's being carted away, she is talking to herself, and she's like, oh, I was going to marry him. I'm going to marry him. And like, oh my God, just look what happened. Someone hears her say that, and then hijinks ensues. And his family, who is obviously very upset, and they don't know if he's going to live, and they're just sort of grasping at straws, wanting to keep everything that is his as close as possible to them. Reaches out to her and of course invites her to come to their house while he is convalescing, and of course she then meets his brother, who is very
oh no
yeah, of course she meets his brother, who is the exact opposite, and he is like a shipping boat captain, very rough and swagger and all that. And it's just how she falls in love with him, and basically how she falls in love with the family. And it's just a fun, nice story. I really enjoyed, writing it, and I hope people get a kick out of it.
Oh, it sounds like a blast. And I love that when you fall in love with the wrong person and you just can't help yourself. Stories.
Yeah, I've never written anything like that before. I've never done that trope. So it was really fun to kind of, because I love the Duke. I love Lord Oliver, and he actually is going to be a major role in the book 6. So it's like, how do you show a girl fall out of love with him, but also have your readers continue to fall in love with him enough to want to read about him next? It's really, it's a fine line, and it was really fun kind of playing with it.
Oh, very cool. Where's the cricket in this one?
Where's the cricket? It's a little on the sidelines. There's no match in this one, but there's a lot of like cricket club meetings, and it's really just meeting with the girls and kind of deciding what their next steps are going to be. And so she is one of obviously the club members, and it's just how they all band together to sort of help her while she's dealing with a lot of emotions. And a lot of them are like Miffy in the first book is pregnant, and so it's just kind of like meeting all those old characters again.
Oh, that's so much fun. I love it when we get to see them again. It's like catching up with old friends. That's one of the best parts about reading in series, is getting to see the characters over and over again.
Exactly.
Well, very cool. And I'm glad the Duke is going to get a happily ever after, because it would be wrong for him not to. So.
I know. I agree. Thank you.
So the next book that launched this week is Dana Quince's book, and it's a Lion's Den book, and it's To Steal a Lion's Heart. So I'll make sure I pop that one in the comments as well. And if you're a Lion's Den reader, you want to keep an eye on our page because we're doing a Lion's Den Kickstarter. That's what I've been working on all day. Catherine is writing Bessie Dove Lyons' story, and we're going to launch it with a special edition Kickstarter. So keep your eye on the page, and I'll make sure as soon as there's a pre-launch link that you get a chance to see it, because if you're a Lion's Den reader, you're not going to want to miss it. But the next book that came out this week is Allison Hanson's book, and it's A Lady's Sweet Revenge, and that's book 3 in Safely in Scotland. Allison, can you tell us about that one?
Sure. So Safely in Scotland, the series is based on 3 Scottish men, lords, who are all friends. And so this is Rhys's book. He's the 3rd friend. And he is constantly being chased by women and trying to be, and he's being like set up to, be in a compromising situation. And the most recent attempt was with a woman and his own mother. His own mother tried to set him up. So he's kind of done with, being in London. So he decides to go home to Scotland just so he can get away from, any women who are trying to get him, capture him. So Harlow, the heroine in the story starts with her. She wakes up on a ship. She's been kidnapped. She was riding with her uncle in the park, and some bad guys come and steal her away. And so she actually escapes and jumps overboard, thinking that whatever fate they have for her on the boat, it's surely better just to be, ended then. So she jumps overboard and she washes ashore. And so you have Rhys walking along the beach, trying to avoid women. And here's one laying on his beach that he now has to take home and, care for. And there's kind of a funny scenario there in the beginning, because at first she's like trying to put together what has happened to her. And he says, oh no, you've lost your memory, because generally that's what you have in that kind of trope is that, they wash ashore and they don't have any memory, but she does. She goes, of course I remember who I am. So there's a lot, some more action in this book, because they're trying to figure out, she knows that her uncle was part of the plan. And so she wants revenge against her uncle, who she grew up, he was almost like another brother. And she has 4 older brothers. So she's kind of like a tomboyish kind of woman. And so she's trying to set up something to get her uncle back for what he had done. So that's who's getting the revenge.
Oh, well, it sounds like a lot of fun. And I love a heroine that grows up with brothers, because she's much less likely to fall in line and do exactly what's expected of her. So
yeah.
Awesome. How many more books in the series do we get?
This is it. At least this is all that's planned right now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Do we get to see some of the previous characters?
Yes. You do.
Great. Well, the next book that came out this week is The Earl's Sacrifice, and it's Kathy's book, and it is the Clandestine Sapphire Society, book 3.
Yes, so I missed last month's recording, but the series is basically this Earl and his brother, and the Earl has 2 sons. And when it starts out, it's 1827, and the boys are really pretty young, like 10 and 13. And so basically the father is a gambler, and he lost some card game to this creepy dude, and he has a daughter who he and the Earl strike a deal to marry that older son who's the heir and the daughter. Well, so book 3 basically starts with their wedding 3 years before the actual story. because he's in love with somebody else. And when he goes and buys the ring, his father's drunk and laughing. He goes, "You just think." And he finds out that he's betrothed to this dude's daughter.
Oh, no.
So it opens with the wedding, and this was 1847 when Queen Victoria had just come to power. I guess about 10 years. But she's the one who actually came out with the veil over the face, and he is a big fan of it at the moment because he doesn't want to raise that veil and see this petrified girl.
Yeah.
But when he finally raises it, and he's like, it's not a petrified girl, it's one who's furious. So
no.
takes her to Cornwall, and they have a property in Cornwall. The first two books are set in Northumberland because it's a Gothic-y. And he dumps her there, just like she can't believe that he didn't trample her down with the horses when he takes off. So in book 2, there's I guess I shouldn't really. There's a funeral, and so how it would have to be because the old earl dies, so the younger son is now the earl. So that creepy duke is at that funeral. All these people, and he announces that his daughter is with child. Well, the new earl is like, "What?"
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, because that's his wife, and they've never consummated their marriage. So he takes off.
Ooh, look, Allison made the right face right there.
So that's kind of where that starts. So he ends up going down there. And then right when he gets there, there's a situation happening that's like, okay. So, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's just, I guess,
quite the twist.
Yeah. Yeah, not quite. And it was really fun to write. I learned a lot about 10 Minds and that kind of thing. And she's just like, get out of my face.
That's way better than the scared ones, I don't know anything about 10 Minds. That's very cool too.
Well, a lot of it's the labor laws at the time, right? And they did in 1842 came up with the Mine Act where kids couldn't work from a certain age and that kind of thing. But she and her friends in the clandestine Sapphire Society, they don't want to be just nobodies. So they are very active in a movement for women and children. And it seems like that's kind of a theme I've taken on the last few years in another series that I've written. So I don't know if it's because of what's going on in politics nowadays, but it's kind of what's been in my head.
Right in the top of your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was very fun. And I have one more I want to write with the series, and we'll see how that flies.
Well, fingers crossed. But I love having a chance to learn new things, and I didn't know that about Queen Victoria and the veils either. So
yeah, that was pretty cool.
All kinds of new stuff in there. Awesome. Well, the next book that came out this week is Eliana's book, and it's The Duke's Hellion, and it's book 3 and Duke Dare. And this is Dragonblade Flame. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
You
Evelyn.
just been too happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about it, Eliana?
For sure. I would love to start with just reading the first line here for you.
Oh, cool.
So it starts in 1816 England. Sometimes you get exactly what you want out of life and love. Sometimes the most perfect plan, the most daring dream, and the most impossible fantasy, they all come true. Not often, but sometimes. So this is about a girl who lives in the world of fantasy. She has all these ideas of falling in love and who she might fall in love with, like a highwayman or a pirate or whatever. And she's super young. She's the youngest of 4 sisters, but she just lives in this world where she wants like the most outlandish things to happen to her. And she ends up kind of like Margaux's book, actually, in a way. She falls in love with somebody right off the bat, but he ends up being the wrong person for her. So I love that connection there. If you like Margaux's trope, read mine, and vice versa. And anyways, so she falls in love with the wrong guy, and she's actually attracted to the Duke. His name is Sam, and she just doesn't like him. They just don't get along. She's an alpha female, and he's an alpha male, super competitive, and they just like butt heads the whole time. And she just resists it for as long as she can, that she's attracted to Sam. Eventually, they do get caught in a scandal, and they're forced to marry. So it's a marriage of convenience trope where they end up having to marry. Yeah, this is actually like one of the first times I've written this trope, even though it's super popular. I always kind of like stayed away from it for some reason. So it was fun to try this one for sure. But they end up getting married, and she ends up, she doesn't love him at that point, okay, and she ends up trying to what do you say, like fulfill or like live out all these fantasies with him. And just because she can, like, just because why not, like there's no heart involved, like let's just see how this goes. And then they end up falling in love through that. He ends up being the overprotective hero for her, kind of a roguish guy. He has his own wounds that he has to get over, but he realizes that she's a challenge for him that he needs.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the story. It's part of this series, like you mentioned, the Duke Dare, where there's 4 sisters that all kind of dared each other to go after a duke. And in the meanwhile, there's 4 guys that are friends that have all made bets with each other in one way or another about what kind of woman they'll end up with. So there's definitely some comedy. There's some shenanigans. She's an archer. All 4 of the sisters have a unique skill. So yeah, she's into archery, and there's some competitions there.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I was going to say actually about that. But yeah, so it's the 3rd book, and then the last book will end with the 3rd sister actually. So it's a little bit out of sequence for the sisters, but yeah.
Awesome.
We'll find out. Yeah.
Awesome. And Dragonblade Flame books are steamy on the page.
Yeah.
So if that's your preference, then that's what you want to gravitate towards.
That's right.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we have a little bit of time left, and when we first came on, before we started recording, Kathy and I were talking about conferences, and I wondered if you all have. I was thinking about books that I read when I was first starting to write, or things that I read to help learn to plot, or how to learn how to do story beats, or craft books, or anything that helped you kind of hone your process, or even just research books, since historical requires such a great deal of research. Are there any books that you find yourself just going to over and over and over again to help with the writing part?
I would say the Emotional Thesaurus. It helps with the the emotional, like helping to describe emotions. I would say in more than just angry and happy and things like that. They have a lot of other words to explain how somebody feels. Yeah.
Yeah, I also love that one.
I read anything Teresa Medeiros or Susan Elizabeth Phillips or some of Laura Kinsale. I mean, talk about emotional depth, because I have those books as well, and they do help. But it's like how you frame it, and that pulls down deep. And I've actually done workshops for that goal motivation conflict, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just the goal motivation conflict, right? When you pull in that emotion and you give them the fear, and basically tell they tie to the internal and external goals, right? But the big thing to me I found was the lie that the character tells himself that feeds that fear, that ties back to that emotion, that wound, right? That emotional wound.
Yeah.
That's where you draw it all together. And that's what I love.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think we talk a lot about the things that characters actually have to go through, but when you get into the feelings of how they feel, I think instinctively we grow up on stories and we're storytellers, so we have that kind of sense of pacing and how things should move. But if you can really tap into the emotion, then you can find that third rail that moves the story through. Margaret, do you have anything that you particularly like?
I probably always go back to Stephen King's On Writing.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, it's because it's kind of nuts and bolts. It's you gotta sit down, you gotta read, you gotta put words on the paper, kind of thing. And so that's really helpful for me, just to again, I think I've said this before, but one of the favorite quotes that someone's told me is, you can't edit nothing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, I have to give myself permission when I'm writing in the morning to just write whatever I want. And if it's terrible, awesome, like be okay with it, just write. Because for so long, the expectation of writing well or writing perfectly the first time was just it was a paralyzing thing to me. So going back to him and just being like, nope, just do it, and so that's because that's what it is, right? You can have all these grand ideas and grand whatever, but it's until you're there actually doing it, there's nothing, you can't go anywhere from there. So it's I just like the way he explains it, I guess.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense because we get so caught up in efficiency and doing things, like not having to waste anything, not having to waste any energy, not having to waste any words, not having to waste any time. And sometimes you have to just give yourself permission to kind of bash about till you find your way through without being focused on.
It's like it's judging yourself before you even start it, right? So you're just being unfair. So it's I guess just keeping your emotions out of it. I want to write about emotions, right, as much as possible, but I need to keep mine as far away while I'm writing.
Yeah, empathize enough to feel what the characters are feeling, but not so much to bring your own stuff the whole way into it.
Exactly.
I once wrote this story, and just a little bit of probably TMI. My mother's been married 6 times. So if that tells you anything, she had I didn't find out until I was 15 that she had been married before my dad. And
wow.
So what's the first thing you think? We call her up. I'm at my dad's in Dallas, and I said, "Is Dad my dad?" "We'll talk when you get home." I'm like,
"Oh no."
So my other dad was standing there, so I could tell, right? And so I was writing a story with these 2 little girls, and I'm reading it to my sister, and I started crying and couldn't stop crying. I'm trying to read her the scene. It's at the end, and the 2 little girls have something they want to ask the dad. And I guess I don't know if it was something I really wanted or something we did kind of experience, because I was the worst kid for my stepdad, the worst, absolute worst. So that's where that emotion comes in, right? Yeah. My sisters were trying to write, and they're like, "Well, my characters don't emote." I said, "Well, that's fine, but you better have a really good reason why." And it's a lot harder to explain that than explain why they can't show their feelings or let loose. And it is. It's a lot tougher,
Yeah, that's what it's harder on the ride.
Romance readers read. They want that emotion. They want to relate.
Yeah, we want to go on the ride. And we want to know that we're going to get a happily ever after when we get to the end of it. So if we give you our time, that you're not going to leave us somewhere out in the hinterland all by ourselves, wandering around without true love to keep us warm or some such thing. So
it was crazy.
Yeah. Eliana,
and then my sister said, "Well, I'm just going to do this for extra money." I said,
"Sure."
Go right on.
Let me know how that works for you.
Eliana, I know you said that you like the emotional, or the thesaurus of emotion. Is this the thesaurus of emotion or the emotional thesaurus?
It's emotional thesaurus.
The emotional thesaurus. Is there anything else that you found that particularly helps with writing for you?
That's the one that's like most recent on my Kindle that is opened. I also got the emotional wound thesaurus. I think that was for
Oh,
backstories because
Yeah.
I had a lot of questions on backstories. I think that's the
Mhm.
one. Could be mistaken, but I just got that one, so that's kind of a new one for me. But yeah, the emotional thesaurus and then the emotional wound thesaurus. Pretty different. Like they sound the same, but actually they're quite different in what they're covering.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple different of those thesaurus. They keep making new ones.
Yeah.
Conflict, I think, was one, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
But sometimes like you draw from your own experiences, but you only have your own experiences. So I was like, where else can you get backstory from? And you just need ideas, right? Sometimes you read something and it will trigger an idea, but yeah, you just want new and fresh ideas. So this emotional wound thesaurus has like tons and tons of options for backstory and like why somebody might be not able to emote, like Kathy had mentioned earlier, or maybe falling in love with the wrong person, like Margaux and I's story, and
Yeah.
other things like that. So there's reasons why these things might happen, and this kind of gives you a little bit of inspiration for that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we
Yeah.
always talk about whether whether you plot or whether you kind of fly by the seat of your pants when you write your book. But I think part of knowing the character's backstory kind of builds in some of that for you, because if you know as the author, the reader doesn't even ever have to know what the details are, but you have to know what they are, because it tells you how, like, I mean, it's like having their voice in your head telling you how they're going to react to things and what's going to scare them and what they're going to hold on really tightly to and what they're going to be willing to sacrifice and when it means something and such. So.
And if you have that backstory, like say you wrote it in a separate document and you're working with that character, it actually comes through the page. You don't have to put that detail on the page. It comes through the page because you already know what it is, and you're kind of adapting that. They're coming through your fingertips or your soul, and it happens. It's true.
Yeah, but there is a certain amount of that channeling another voice when you're writing, and the more you know about the character that you're writing, the easier it is to get out of the way and let them do the talking. Do you all find that you catch tropes that you really are drawn to, or is it more that you have a character that won't stop bothering you, or where are the seeds of the story? Where do the seeds of the story come from for you most often?
Tropes for sure. For me, it starts there. Yeah.
My characters wake me up and they tell me what's happening to them, so I don't get a choice in the matter.
That's just rude.
Yeah.
Margaux, what about you?
I don't know. I think probably tropes. Yeah, but also it's like, they do tell you who they are, because like, you'll just be in the zone and you'll write something and your character will like say something. You're like, I didn't think you were going to say that. That's really interesting. And then you just sort of like unravel the sweater, So I'd say it's a little bit of both. I wish I had a better answer. I'm sorry.
No.
It works for me that day.
I think I have 4 different types of characters. I wrote a Cinderella story, and you have the pragmatic heroine, you have the meek and mild, you have the impulsive, and then you have the one who is kind of a know-it-all, or just kind of bitchy. And those are the 4 characters that I wrote for my Cinderella series. You have Cinderella, the impulsive character, and then you have the pragmatic, and she's not so easy to get around. She's actually not very nice in the beginning. And I've done several characters like that. And one girl told me in a story I wrote, it was contemporary, and she said, I don't know how you did it, but I really liked her at the end, because you just don't like her in the beginning. And I thought it was such a compliment that it could twist, really pull you in. So, and I think that as far as ideas come from me, not necessarily tropes. There might be a trope that I write, but it's just like it comes through the other characters in books, and so that's where my ideas come. I usually have a character first before the story.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's interesting that you said about Susan Elizabeth Phillips earlier, because she wrote, was it Sugar Baby? I'm trying to remember the name of the book, where the heroine was just had done terrible, terrible things as a teenager. Like she was
That
just
was Ain't She Sweet?
Ain't She Sweet? That's I had,
Yeah.
yeah. And you just think there's no way I'm going to like this person, and like it's just not possible. And then by the end of the book, you can see why because you have such empathy for her, because she's done such a good job of showing you who the character is on the page.
She is a major psychologist. She is on point. The way she can pull their connection is just mind-boggling, and it really is a lesson to learn when you read her stuff.
Well, and one of the lovely things about writing is that I think authors in general are also readers, and it's always exciting to me to have time to talk to you all and to hear about your books, and to be able to see like all the books we have this week and all the books we'll have next week, and there's never lacking for a story or a heat level, or there's always something I can find that I want. So, and that leads me into my used car sales pitch, which is Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release. You want to grab them right away, and if you don't, you can always read them Kindle Unlimited. So, ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back same time next week.